session for GWA, and we'll go straight into the resolutions. Chris, you're up.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. The first resolution is Resolution 20-FY 2023, relative to the approval of the IDIQ implementation of district metered areas design and CM contract. Over the past 2 years, GWA has been working with the consultant WSO to develop a water loss control program and district metered area implementation plan to reduce non-revenue water, and also to provide reliable system of monitoring the health and of the water supply and the distribution network. Part of that implementation plan requires construction of district metered areas throughout GWA's water system. In total, there's 36 planned district metered areas. GWA advertised RFP 07 ENG 2022, which solicited qualified engineering firms to provide design and construction management services for the indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity for design and construction management services for implementing these district metered areas. Part of the design work will include civil, mechanical, electrical, and instrumentation work, as well as earthworks, flow metering, pressure instrumentation, and SCADA. 17 firms registered for the RFP package and 6 submitted proposals. The evaluation committee went through all those packages and recommended to award the contract to Duenas Camacho and Associates. The GWA management is requesting approval of the negotiated fee proposal in the amount of $3,119,377, which includes all the required work to implement the DMAs. At this time, this resolution is only requesting to award a portion of that fee proposal in the amount of $1.5 million, with the project being funded by US EPA grants. Additional US EPA funds will be available annually and provide future additional funding after the initial award is exhausted.
Okay. Any questions? Are you trying to figure out the total number? But what's the difference in management?
I'm going to have to defer to our project manager. We have a mic.
Okay, so this project covers not just construction management, but also design. So there is a design component so that we can come up with the 30% design and go to construction for these projects. In addition, the construction management portion is the day-to-day, boots on the ground to make sure that the contractor is following all the plans and specifications that are covered in the project. The project management would be more of a overall view, higher view level to make sure that we're on schedule in general, running through the financial components, making sure we meet grant compliant requirements and so forth. But there is more day-to-day work with people who will be at the sites, reviewing construction, looking at what the contractor is doing, and looking at testing the work that they're doing as well, making sure they're using the right materials, conducting the right tests, and that the test results meet specifications.
Okay, and then so if you look at this thing, 1.2 mil for the design, right? Is this going to be like a template if there's 36 different sites? No? It's going to be the same type at everyone's going to be different? Why?
Each site would be different depending on the site-specific conditions for the site.
So so phase one is 1.6, and then they come in and the design is drastically different, and they're gonna ask for more money on the construction side if it's, I mean, can we say, can't go over and above an amount? Or are they wide open on the design?
We could work with a not to exceed amount depending on what phase in the construction we're dealing with. Right now, we're trying to work through budgets and staying within grant allotments for this grant period. And then when we move to the next grant period, we'll have to do the same thing, dealing with, current costs of both construction and trying to get these designers and CM cost proposals and just really we're competing with a lot of firms
Yeah.
for work.
Because right now you're talking a total projected cost of 3.1. You didn't even throw in your normal, you guys usually pay 10%?
That's not even construction, that's just the design
This is
of it all.
just
Just
design.
design.
This is just the
Yeah.
design of it all. But it's a good question, and I have the same, so if you take out the 1.4 million from the 3.1, right, so the first piece is design what the heck the proposed solution could look like, right? It's gonna produce eventually a construction proposal that you put out for bid to actually implement what's designed, right? If you take out that 1.4 million, that leaves 1.7 million, and then like Commissioner Santos, I was asking, 600 over 1.7 that's the 33% for construction management for a design component. Whereas it seems to me you would do the 1.4, come up with a proposal, put it out for bid, and in there would be some CM, like all of our construction bids do, but already we've budgeted the 1.7 million for all these other costs, including the 600,000 for construction management. Does that mean we already have what do we sense the whole project's gonna cost?
Oh, for design, yes, 3.1.
So that would be
Right,
the
but there's
bottom.
600,000 of construction management. What is that based on?
It was a budget that we just came up with, because we are not, because
Yeah.
it was a budget, we just told them to put down 600K, because each of these will be in phases, right? So it's not like we're gonna issue,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying? It
Yeah.
could be, let's say construction money is available for like 2 sites, then we're gonna tell them, hey, mobilize, give me a time material cost, and we issue a task order for it.
So-
Time and material, right?
Okay.
So it's just up to budget, doesn't mean we're gonna spend all of it, but we wanted to make sure we capture all of it, when we, present this to the EPA for the total cost, right, for the project
Okay.
cost. And we don't wanna short ourselves, right?
And-
So it's an up to amount, so we might only spend 200 maybe,
How much has EPA allocated for this project?
1.5 so far.
What's the total? I mean, that's only gonna cover design. Are they gonna cover construction, or we do construction? Our money does.
It mentions it here yearly,
Well,
they're going to.
EPA will cover construction, but at this point, we can't reserve grant funds for a project that doesn't have a design yet.
Okay, so,
So when we get the design and we move to procurement, then we'll have to program that into the annual work plan when we have future grant funds.
so correct me if I'm wrong, seems to me then, the 1.4 we gotta spend. That gets us going on what the magnitude of the project will be. It will give us a guesstimate, an even better guesstimate on construction. The remaining 1.7 is sort of just a guess, right? And you've allocated 600,000. But all of that will be subject to the first 1.4 million, which I think is what Chris is alluding to. You're only asking us for the 1.4 now, right? Then I think all the questions that Commissioner Santos and I might have, or other colleagues would have, on total costs of, I mean, ultimately, it's a good project. We need our meters looked at and addressed, and for the long term, this is gonna lead to another larger expenditure, but we have a good chance of getting EPA to help pay for a lot of it. But we gotta do it in steps, so the first step is the 1.4 million. The second step will flow from that, and the 600,000 in construction management is just an estimate in March 2023 that we know is gonna change once the 1.4 million is spent. Is that the right way to think about it?
Correct, although it will be 1.5.
Yeah, and it's
Whatever.
1.5, but it's not just for the design. So the 1.5 will include the geotech services, bio, archaeological research, and some construction management. If we break it out, let's say we issue task order number 1, we come up with like, hey, work on 4 sites, right? Get this package done, then we can bid it out, and we bid out the project for construction, then we can do a task order for the construction management.
Okay, but your geotech, your biological, and your archaeological are like 700,000.
Yeah.
You're saying, you've got 1.46 there now, including, all right, you're saying 1.5. The rest of it is 700,000, so you, I mean, I forget, Chris, are you asking us to approve 1.5?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll get going on the one, I assume, we'll get going on the 1.5. The rest of this flows from what comes out of the 1.5 in terms of design and estimated construction project, then estimated cost of that construction, the construction projects that will flow from the first 1.5 that you're asking to approve now. Okay,
Yeah, all the services are included here, each side will require.
okay, I get it now.
Okay, Commissioner Santos.
Just, I don't know if this is a Chris or Mo question. I mean, I'm hearing it from the private sector side that, the part about archaeological research, how far behind is historic preservation with respect to our projects? In whether it's review, approved, can you just give that to us next Tuesday? Give us a list of projects that are pending and how long it's been sitting at the social office, because it's, you know, private sector people coming up saying the delay is costing us millions. And, you know, someone needs to light a fire under the archaeological people just to cut this crap out. You know, we gotta get these projects going, otherwise, if it's gonna cost us anywhere more to delay a project, and there's really no need to pump money into projects that we're not gonna get off the ground. I mean, I'll be opposed to, you know, approving any more until the other side tells us, the other side of the government tells us what they're gonna do to move projects along. So if you can provide us by Tuesday, a list of the projects that are sitting and how long they've been sitting at the Historic Preservation Office.
Yes, we'll provide that with the review times for each project.
Well, whatever information we have from the time you delivered to whether, even better if it's been approved, so at least we know if they're working on, you know, I know they're not working on private sector projects for some reason.
We'll provide that, and we have different reviews, multiple reviews for each project at different stages.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Just
Go
on
ahead.
top of that, so are these 20, are these new ones, this 20 that's listed, that's in here?
20 different sites.
20, yeah.
Are these new ones?
Yes. This is like the project out here, right?
Yes.
The one right by your road.
These are new meter locations where we're?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I was gonna say, you're getting ready to finish that project, right?
Yes.
So now you can give us a picture of how much the costs are. So that we,
One down the street on the right.
yeah, that's the one, so that we can get a picture of the cost, because if you're gonna do it 19 more times, now, the areas may differ, you know,
Yeah, that's why I-
you know,
that's what-
I get that, but at least he'll give us a flavor of what we're looking at over the for the total 20, right, that you need to do. So if you're wrapping that up, kind of give us a ballpark figure of, this is what it cost, this one, and it's gonna cost that up or down for the next 19.
Yes, we have all that, right, under the
Okay,
contract, yeah.
what you can do is just, if you can just give us, on Tuesday,
Okay, yeah.
give us the information
Yeah,
on
we
Tuesday.
have each site cost, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, the actual cost.
okay. Thank you.
Just one clarification.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman. Resolve clause number 3 is authorizing CCU to accept the fee proposal in the amount of $3,119,377, but we're only requesting for funding of
Yeah.
1.5.
Yeah, no, we're in for the $3 million. We're just only gonna approve funding for the 1.5, because that's what you're getting approved from US EPA. Now, I wanna make sure, I think all these 20 are gonna be funded by US EPA.
That's what we expect, yes.
Yeah, we expect grant funding for this, so we're not gonna borrow money for it. It's all grant funding, but it's a staged thing. In other words, US EPA is not gonna open up a checkbook and give us the amount for all 20 at one shot. But they'll, over the period, do you have an idea of how long this will take, by the way? I meant to ask that.
How long it will take?
The 20, you know, to complete this whole master meter project, whatever.
Yeah, it depends on funding, right, what we get, but design-wise, I think we can get done within probably within 2 years or so, right?
You could do 20 in
design-wise,
2 years, if you
yeah.
have the money?
Because the designs are not that difficult, right?
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
meters
yeah.
and all
These
that
are monitoring
and
meters.
stuff, yeah. It's not as complex as the pressure zone, right?
Okay.
Some of the pressure zones are wrapped together with the DMAs, right? Because they overlap, right?
Okay, so the one down here down the street, is that a pressure zone and a?
Correct, yeah.
It's
So that was
wrapped,
under the pressure zone phase one, so we wrapped that into, because pressure zones are a good spot to put DMAs.
Monitoring
Because we
Okay.
have great pressure flows going through.
Okay.
Yeah.
well, give us that data so that we, you know, we can have a figure of what we're looking at, and it's gonna take time. Because we gotta wait for EPA to give us the money too. Okay,
Right.
Chris, what's
Thank you,
next?
sir. Next is resolution number 22-FY 2023, and this is relative to the approval of additional funding of construction contract for the tank repair and bypass project. This project is part of the remaining 2011 federal court order projects to repair and replace water storage reservoirs. The object of this request is to perform major repairs to the 500,000 gallon Pigua Marizo tank. Repairs will include tank floor replacement, roof purlin, rafter replacement, new interior and exterior coatings, and other miscellaneous replacements and upgrades. The project was an additive bid to a contract awarded to AIC International under GWA IFB 06 ENG 2019. The contract was approved by Resolution 10-FY 2020 in the amount of $5.94 million. Resolution number 11, FY 2022, increased that authorization by $5.71 million, bringing the total authorization on that contract to $11.65 million. The tanks that were repaired under those first two funding authorizations were the Agate Pneumatic tank, GIGO number 3, Stumbo, Windward Hills, and then some other work that's being done prepping some additional tanks for inspections. This resolution is
This is court order project.
correct. And this Pigua Marizo tank was also an additive bid item in the original IFB. The tank inspections were completed, and the results were used to negotiate the repair scope, work, and fee with the contractor in the amount of $1,137,989. We're requesting a 15% contingency fee on the project, bringing the total to $1,308,687. And GWA is also seeking to increase the total contract authorization to $12,959,654. The funding source is bond funds, specifically CIP PW 0909 and 0911. And we're requesting that you authorize the use of those funds as well.
Questions? I have a real quick question, only because of my curiosity. The agate tank that we were repairing, that's on at the bottom of the hill going up to the Sunny Bay overlook, right? Yes. Where's the pneumatic tank? Out of curiosity.
Pneumatic tank, that's the one, I don't know, describe, it's past the fire station. And
Where's the fire station?
The pneumatic?
Just north of the Fort Soledad.
For so that, yeah. You have to go, yeah.
Okay,
Just nearby Fort Soledad.
where's Fort Soledad? I don't know.
Coming up from the bridge, you're coming up on the top.
Okay, okay, look, no. I don't know pneumatic, really. That's the one village I don't know.
If you're heading
I'm
south,
asking 'cause
through
there is a
United?
tank in that area. Listen, I'm asking, so there's a, okay, when you're talking about, wait, you're talking about the dip down there, and then you're going up the hill to the overlook, Sunny View, right? That's the area?
No,
No,
you're
no.
not inside the village.
Okay, wait, never mind, someday, somebody.
You know where Umatic is,
we'll
Mr.
bring
Chairman?
a map. We'll bring a map for the next meeting.
I'm like Magellan, we got lost.
In the south?
Okay, never mind, can somebody just tell me where that is after?
We'll send you a pin drop.
These guys are giving me a hard time, so never mind. Cut it out, you know, I know everywhere.
Go for your children.
Okay. Next.
Thank you, sir. Next resolution for consideration is number 23-FY 2023, and this is relative to the approval of amendment for the indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, professional utility management and financial consulting services contract. In 2020, GWA issued RFP 2020-01 and subsequently awarded a consulting services IDIQ contract to Gallardi Rothstein Group in the amount of $979,669 to support the GWA 5-year financial plan, including several analytical studies ordered by the Public Utilities Commission. Resolution 24-FY 2021 increased the amount of that contract to pay for unforeseen delays and additional work required in the adjudication of the FY 20 to FY 2024 5-year financial plan. The objective of this resolution is to increase the contract again by an additional $514,986, and this is to fund 6 additional task orders. These 6 task orders will provide support to develop and negotiate a GWA Navy utility service contract agreement, also to update the financial planning section of the Water Resource Master Plan, to integrate the rate model with the 20-year strategic financial plan, to develop the FY 2025 to FY 2029 5-year financial plan, and then perform additional research and analysis to implement ongoing comprehensive review and update initiatives, including customer assistance program, commercial paper program, bond authorization, and a management audit. And lastly, the last task order is to refund existing revenue bonds. The additional authorization will be funded by bond funds and revenues, some of which were ordered by the PUC to be classified as a regulatory asset. At this time, it's still undetermined what that amount will be. And then lastly, management is seeking authorization to request or provide any required notification to the PUC under the contract review protocol.
Okay. Mr. Sanchez.
Yeah, I'll just share I don't even know how to frame this, which is unusual for me, but, you know, for the first 5-10 years of setting rates and you know, doing the first consent decree, admittedly, we used the existing models, but we did it in-house. And then I can appreciate Mr. Rothstein, very talented, very capable advisor, consultant. And now we've asked him, you know, at management's belief, urging, they felt they needed, I guess, to upgrade the process. But we're spending $2 million on rate cases. And I'm just starting to wonder, are we buying a Mercedes-Benz for rates that we can't do in-house? That we've done, and I know there's a big change if you're just using the same rate structure and you're just doing the math to say what's the rate increase to give you the cash, that's pretty easy. And when you change rate structures, cost of service, which I think Mr. Rothstein and Miguel are working towards, that is more work. But I'm just really concerned about, I mean, frankly, I mean, you, me, and Greg did the first 10 years of rate cases in-house. And we didn't spend $2 million, right? And we got the rates approved. We got the rates approved for the consent decree. And so I'm wrestling with the value added, which I see. There's a need to add some value to the sophistication of the rate design. And then maybe, you know, in fairness to Miguel and to Talling and to yourself, I'm just bringing it up today because it's on our agenda for Tuesday, and I don't know if Miguel's back in time. But no. I'm just wondering about, you know, what's sort of the end game here? Are we going to spend $2 million but end up at a place where the future rate design is in place for the next 5, 10, 20 years? Because it's not like we have a lot of complex, you know, we have commercial, we have residential, you know, we don't have a lot of complex classes. But you do need to create a model that is easily adjustable for in-house teams, where all we got to say is, okay, over the next 9 years, this is the CIPs, this is the expenses, and we can then calculate, okay, how much cash do you need, and that's what you take to the PUC. And I also appreciate that some of this has been ordered by the PUC, so it's a little bit on them in terms of you know what they're looking for in terms of the quality of the information. But I just want to note to all of us, from ourselves to Miguel and his team to the PUC, that this is $2 million of rate cases that are being paid for by the people. And I'm just worried that we're getting a Lexus when a good Toyota truck would suffice. I mean, Joey, you and I have done rates for 30-plus years, and we've done them on both sides of the table. And at the end of the day, it's really just predicting cash flow for debt service coverage that is sufficient, and then that translates into a rate. And as much as I respect Mr. Rothstein's sophistication, and I appreciate his level his work at the national level with municipal governments trying to get the federal government to appreciate, hey, there's some things you're causing that are impacting municipalities. I'm just concerned about the sheer cost of this work. It's significant, and are we buying a Mercedes when a Toyota truck would suffice? And I'll just leave it at that analogy, and it may not be a fair analogy, but I just want to put it on the record for us to think about that it's an emerging concern. I don't, on the one hand, rate structuring, rate design is sophisticated, but from another point of view, it's the KISS rule. Keep it simple, Simon. Don't. I mean, and for $2 million, heck, that's like an annual rate increase for GWA, all just for rate design, right? Yeah, it's spread out over time, but in effect, a $2 million rate design is a 2% of annual income that we're committing to rate design spread out over 5, 6 years. So I just wanted to share that concern.
I have the same concern, but what I did is I dug deeper into this, and water utilities and wastewater utilities throughout the country, the numbers are just getting astronomical. What we're doing, so how to recover that from each ratepayer is the real problem, and that's where the rate design is getting so sophisticated, and it's they're trying to make different balances. Here's the bottom line: people don't realize that the cost of water is just soaring. It's not going down, and it's not simple as just pumping water up out of the ground. Once EPA finalizes their rule on PFAS, that's going to have a big impact on what we do, and spreading that across the different ratepayers, and not all utilities have the same ratepayer base. We don't have an industrial section here. We don't have certain other economies. So I kind of understand where we're going, and this was ordered really by the PUC because they thought that right, Simon, you're right. When we were doing it, it was real simple. You know what? The bond covenant says 1.25. That's the debt service that you have to hit. We said we're not so sure that we can always do that, so we set it at 1.75. Remember? In the very beginning, because we had a big cushion there. Yeah. Well, now with the amount of money you're going to need, they're trying to tighten that cushion up. So we're down. What is our debt service coverage right now? It's like 1.30. That per the PUC. So they're trying to
Did they change the criteria?
Because they made a relaxation last September 2022 from 1.4, started with 2020 1.5 to 1.4, and now. Okay. For the relaxation of that was approved by the PUC last September, we started from this third 5-year financials. We started at 1.5, then it went to, for the first 2 years, where we started with the 5.5 increase of provisions. It was agreed in February 2020. Now when we went to the PUC again, they adjusted us to 1.4 for 2022,
Okay.
and relaxation in September for 2023 and 23 to 1.3.
So now they're only going to give us rates for 1.3.
1.3.
Okay.
And they're tight, and I guess the point I'm trying to make is they're tightening that amount. And so you're trying to make sure that your rates give you enough to cover that,
I understand
So
that.
I'm just saying,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's some of it, and,
Well, my
we'll have
concern would
Miguel,
be.
we'll have Miguel kind of
Yeah,
dig in
and
more to.
just to get this,
Yeah.
so Miguel can talk, and I don't expect it solved by next Tuesday, something
No,
we
no,
need to
no,
talk
no.
about. But
Yeah.
even the PUC, one of the things that the rating agencies liked which keeps our interest rates lower, was they like the 1.75. And I don't know if we've informed the rating agencies, it's now down to 1.3. Does that concern them? Because it's a balancing act. If they squeeze it too tight at the PUC level, then a rating agency would say, well, you're so tight that that there's more risk for you to borrow money, therefore the interest rate goes up. And then the interest rate goes up against the ceiling of 1.3, and that kind of tension, we need to all think about, right? And so that's one piece. The other thing is, Tallinn can do the 5-year financial plan. Once we have the model, which Mr. Rothstein has put in very well, all right? I don't know why we need to pay him for doing a 5-year. Gilda, we did 5-year financial plans. It ain't that difficult, and plus you true it up every year anyway. You get to put the reality in from what you thought 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. Every year you put in the new reality of what it was, and you adjust. But at the end of the day, some of that's just simple accounting and a calculator, right? And we don't need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars for that. So even revenue bond refunding, we have underwriters, we have other people advising us. Do we need from a scope of work of Mr. Rothstein, do we want to, if we're paying $10,000 for it, great. If we're paying $400,000 for that piece, well, then what are we paying the underwriters for? Because they're the ones that say, hey, now's a good time for refunding, right? And once you do the refunding, what the new rate will be in terms of the refunding and figuring out what its impact on rates, that's easy. Even old guys like me and Joey can still do it, right? So for Tuesday, one other thing is, again, not to resolve it. Well, I mean, I guess you're asking for an approval, right? How much?
An additional $514,000.
Okay, so can we by Tuesday get a total amount we spent with Ghilardi Rothstein to date? And then would be on top of it, so we know the complete magnitude. But just off the top of your head, what have we spent with them? $1 million, $2 million? Well, $1 million, and now we need another $1.5 million, right? Well, but total is it's to bring it to 1.5.
Right.
Okay, all right. So let's just have all of that on Tuesday, and I just bring it to the colleagues as a concern. I just want to make sure that we're getting good value and not buying more than we need to at a time we're trying to be really aggressive on costs.
Okay. Commissioner Ranchapo.
So do we know how many people participated in the RFP when it came out?
It was just one.
Just one?
One firm.
And has that been the case for these rate studies?
Well, to my knowledge, this was the only one we've ever put out for this type of service.
No? Okay. So that's part of the issue, right? Is that if you don't have the competition, it's tough to do it. But I think Commissioner Sanchez, you're suggesting that we do it in-house?
Well,
do we even have
maybe define what can we do in-house once we have the basic model, and what does he have to do? Because some of the stuff, for years we had a simple model developed at the PUC. We just brought it here and said, this is how you get rates for debt service coverage, and that worked for. When did we hire Mr. Rothstein?
In 2020.
Okay, that worked for 18 years, and now we're spending $1.5 million in the last 2 years. But admittedly, there's some things that Mr. Rothstein did, I think, that are valuable to the commission, to the utility, in terms of being a little more sophisticated in rate design, so maybe we had the 20-year-old pickup truck in 2020 that did need to get upgraded, right? But now the upgrade is, okay, did we buy too fancy a truck, or just, or if this is a $1.5 million investment that sets us up for internal management on a going forward basis for the next decade or so, maybe then it's merited, right? I just want to make sure that we get a good understanding for that, and that, is there an end game to this, or are we going to be every couple of years going, I need another $500,000 for these next 5 things? I look at some of this stuff. I know once Tallinn can take the Ghilardi Rothstein model and do the 5-year financial plan. I don't see anything magic. It's not, if you're not changing the rate structure, it's just generating cash flows. And Tallinn's as good at it as anybody. I'm rate model integration for 20-year strategic financial planning. What is that? What is that? I don't know what that is. And how much are we paying to look 20 years ahead? Maybe we should just look 10 years ahead. And if Tallinn can do the 5-year plan, well then how difficult it is to do a 10-year plan. You know, and maybe we come back in 5 years and say, Mr. Rossing, can you just glance at it? We've used it for 5 years. Take a peek. You know, that kind of manage the project a little bit, because it's not cheap. Right?
No, it's not cheap.
And-
I grant you it's not cheap, but you know.
You know, he's gonna help us with contract development negotiations with the Navy. Why can't Miguel and Teresa do that? And the board? I mean, it's not like we don't.
The only thing I'll tell you is, Miguel won't be here next Tuesday. But,
Okay.
we'll take this up at our next meeting. No, it's an issue we will discuss.
Maybe what they can do by next Tuesday is it time critical that we need to get the $500,000 approved by Tuesday? Is it time critical for Mr. Rothstein, or can he wait a month? Let's get Miguel back. Maybe during the next work session next month, we can kind of say, help explain this to us a little better, maybe, you know, as an option. And let's see what you come up on Tuesday, and then the body can decide.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, on the 5-year financial plan for FY 2025 to 29, part of that involves developing a user manual for the rate application model. It involves training, working with our team to try to bring them along with the rate application model so that we can do it ourselves. So that's part of what's in this request for $514,000. In addition,
How much is that piece? Can you break down the 6 pieces?
yes.
Okay, that'd be.
And then, you know, it's also time and materials. So if the rate case isn't as contentious as the last one, it's very possible that what we're asking for the 5-year rate plan will be much less than the total amount, which is $266,167 of this task order. So about half.
To help us.
To
fight
help us with the
PUC.
next 5-year rate plan to get it through PUC.
$250,000?
Miguel has to explain that to you, because I've been paying attention to this thing on my own. You have to understand, they're trying to put in a rate model, come up with a rate model. And the problem was that when they tried to do it with the consultant from the PUC, yeah, the consultant from the PUC insisted that they get access to the model and the proprietary information, you know, they couldn't block. So they gave them everything. They didn't know how to use the rate model.
Well,
Okay,
but
so,
that's something
no-
we can talk to the PUC about. Hey, you're making us spend $250,000 because your consultants are having a challenge.
And son,
Right.
we're doing that, but, you know.
Well, I don't know if we're doing that because we're ready to just roll over and pay for it. So anyway, let's talk about it Tuesday. I'm okay.
We'll talk about it Tuesday, but
And
I'm trying to tell you that, really, I think Miguel has to be here, and if you want to hold it for one more month, I don't know, we'll see how that works.
yeah.
No, it's up to you.
When is our next, when do you have to file for the next true-up?
June 1st.
Okay, so, and again, it's just a 1-year true-up, right? It's just looking at actual last year to date.
But
It's
it's
not a,
using
it's
the
not a
model
complex.
to true-up.
True, but the model already exists. It's not, and
The
again,
model is still being argued over.
Remember,
Anyway.
it still goes to PUC.
no, I understand, I'm not sure. What do you mean the model's being argued over? I don't get that. What does that mean? This is our model that they asked us to do. So what's the argument?
This is our model that they asked us to do, that they want to approve.
What do you mean they want to approve?
The PUC still has to bless this
Yeah.
thing.
No, have they
Okay.
blessed the
That's
model?
where-
Blessed the model?
That's where the problem
Okay.
is, remember?
Yeah.
The Georgetown guys didn't accept this thing, and guess who told us to hire Georgetown? The
Okay.
PUC.
Well, that's their prerogative.
That's their prerogative.
We don't tell them who to hire,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But they don't tell us who to hire. And so I'm with you there. I'm
Right.
with you there.
So,
Yeah,
So
okay,
What we're not
okay.
telling the ratepayers is that they're paying twice for the same
Well,
study.
and I think then we need to take that to the PUC and say, hey, we're all for getting this right, but not if it's gonna cost ratepayers this kind of money.
Right.
And we get into these pissing matches with your consultant and our consultant, both of whom are being paid by our ratepayers. So let's kind of get to the point, PUC and CCU and management, saying, look, this is not sustainable if the only people that win in this case are the rate consultants for the PUC and GWA who get to bill the ratepayers because they can't get along. That's where the clients step in and say, hey, on our side and on the PUC on your side, respect our mutual independence. You're independent, so are we, right? We're following your orders, but in following your orders, we need a good Tacoma truck, not a Mercedes-Benz, especially when the ratepayers are paying for it.
Move it on.
Okay, anyway,
Okay,
I'm done.
what's the next one?
Okay.
The last one.
And thank you, sir. The last resolution is 24-FY 2023. This is relative to approving fiscal year 2023 proposed budget amendments and rate stabilization fund transfers. This resolution requests to amend the FY23 budget, authorizing and also to authorize a transfer from GWA's Capital Improvement Fund to the Rate Stabilization Fund, and also to increase the amount of rate stabilization funds authorized to be used to fund the FY23 operations budget. The approved FY 2023 budget authorized $123.8 million in revenue to support GWA operations and maintenance expenses and annual debt service payments. The revenue was comprised of $108 million in projected revenues, $12.4 million in American Rescue Plan Act funds, and $2.9 million from the Rate Stabilization Fund. The approved operating expenses for FY23 is $100 million. The current operating expenses are projected to be $107,500,000, creating a shortfall for this year of approximately $7.3 million. That shortfall is primarily being driven by $5.76 million in increases to power expenses, and then the balance is other inflationary increases to critical inventory, materials, and supplies. There's currently a $3.1 million balance in the Rate Stabilization Fund, of which $1.6 million is available to be used in FY23 per the first resolution approving the budget. To supplement these revenues, management is first requesting to transfer $3.8 million from the Capital Improvement Fund into the Rate Stabilization Fund. This will result in a Rate Stabilization Fund balance of $6.8 million. And then lastly, management is requesting to increase the FY23 authorization to use rate stabilization funds from $2.9 million to $8.1 million. This will provide additional cash flow from the Rate Stabilization Fund balance of $6.8 million if approved to fund the FY23 operations, which would leave a projected balance of $100,000. These amendments are necessary and urgent to provide funding to meet operational needs and to maintain our debt service coverage ratio at 1.3 times. Lastly, the transfer will only be made out of the Rate Stabilization Fund if debt service coverage falls below the 1.3 times coverage.
So, for reasons that make sense to me, like your power bill, right? Budget, what we thought the budget would be last summer when we approved it, that's gone up $7 million, of which 80% of it is the power bill. Right. Who's running that place? Anyway, the oil companies are. We are, dear. Takes three of us. Okay, so, and then to cover it, we've got reserves in different funds. You want to, what I like is the CIP fund has some money we didn't spend. Great, that's a perfect use of that money. And then you have some other reserves that we can transfer so that the ratepayers are not impacted by this approval of the budget increase. It's recognizing just the realities of the day, and we're covering it from existing funding sources without needing rate relief, which is great. And then coming up in June, you're going to do next year's true up and what you think you're going to need for next year, and we'll go to battle then. So, okay, Bert, so my understanding is accurate? Okay, so thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to make sure.
Okay.
Okay. Did you want to?
For the whole meeting?
Yeah, so have we released to the public the letter to the Attorney General inviting him to meet with us on the legal issues?
I didn't know he was gonna release it, I just sent it to him.
Well, we haven't told the public that we've released it? Could we?
I did, sure, we could, I didn't think we would do a press release to say, hey, by the way, we invited him to meet.
Did he respond yet?
No, I'm not aware that he's responded yet.
Okay, it was sent when? Friday?
So,
I mean,
we'll check.
I think it would help in spur responses to let them know. It's up to the body. If you guys don't think so.
No, I'd
Yeah.
send it.
Yeah,
No.
I mean, it's a request to meet. We clearly have differences. He was on the radio today outlining those differences, but I was actually encouraged by the beginning of his conversation when he said it's actually a good thing that the governor and the legislature want to get, well, the legislature wants to have a hearing on the hospital lease. Great. And he said that's actually a good thing. They're elected bodies. It's good that they get together. When he got to our topic, though, he was down on our Council Rojas representing that we're trying to buck the system, right? And he says he's the elected AG, and which he is, right? But I think the part he conveniently ignores in the public discussion is
every attorney general that works for the elected AG is there because he's the elected AG. Our council is here because we're the elected CCU. But we have two bodies of law that say autonomous agencies can hire their own counsels, and the AG is the chief legal counsel of Guam. Now it says chief, it doesn't say only. And you have two bodies of law that clearly recognize he's not the only legal counsel approved by the legislature to serve. Autonomous agencies also can do it. And in our case, we're the only autonomous agency that are also elected. So we elected folks need to work together, the AG and ourselves. You've sent a letter saying, let's get together on these differences. We've tried to deal with it internally with basically no response, limited response, other than transfer our in-house counsels to his office and continue to pay them, and that's raised some concerns. So your letter, at the urging of your colleagues, and we all agreed, you wrote him a letter last Friday saying, can we meet? And I think, can we meet before the 9th? And we want to do it in public, open to the public, so the public can observe and all 5 of us can participate. And let's see, you know, I got to believe he wants the same things we do. We want the best for our ratepayers and our taxpayers, right? We want, when we deal with litigation, we want to make sure the outcomes that we pursue, I think he wants them to work for the people and we want them to work for the people. So in that regard, we're on the same page. And maybe it would be useful for Teresa in the AG's office to have counseling about, you know, what's the best strategy. But at the end of the day, you can only have one client and one decision maker directing the final direction of the legal guidance, right? Lawyers issue opinions, you can listen to them, you can ignore them. I mean, that's the prerogative of anybody, right? And the governor can hire their own attorneys, they're elected. The legislature can hire their own attorneys, they're elected. We can hire our own attorneys, we're elected. He hires attorneys, he's elected. So it's all, but it's incumbent on all of us elected folks to try to find ways to work through our differences, focus on the outcome that's positive for our taxpayer and our ratepayers, and to the degree we can, when laws conflict, try to resolve them, harmonize them, or if you are going to challenge them, as the airport did in 2005, in which he lost the case at the Supreme Court level. The Supreme Court made it very clear that autonomous agencies like the airport can hire their own counsel. So to me, he's got to work within that context just like we do, right? But we also have to work within the context that the law says he's the chief legal officer, and there's certain powers and duties that he has prescribed by the legislature, just like we have powers and duties prescribed by the legislature. How do we elected officials work together to produce positive outcomes for our taxpayers and our ratepayers? I want to believe that's our mutual goal, and so I think in that light,
I'll do something.
just issue that letter that we've invited him. I think you want the meeting before May 9th, if at all possible, and we want to do it under open government, so we can notify and let the public observe, and then hopefully that produces very positive outcomes. You know, at the end of the day, this is not about rhetoric on the radio shows, whether it comes from him or me. It's about what can we do collectively, working together to do what's best of the community.
Who elected us?
Who elected all of us, right? Yeah, we work for all of them, right? And we work together. But sometimes in his rhetoric, he only states that he's elected, which is true, but he forgets it. At least in our case, well, we're elected as well. And you know what he has to remember that 54% of the community wanted a different attorney general. So he has to represent those people as well, not just the 46 that voted for him, the 54% that voted for someone else, right? Just like we have to represent everybody, whether they voted for us or not. Once we're in this seat, we've got to work together with the governor, the legislature, the attorney general, and vice versa. The attorney general has to work with the governor, the legislature, and us. And we've given an opportunity to do it. He said on Bob Klitsky's show he would come, so that's a positive thing. So you've now taken the next step.
I'll make sure the media knows that we
Sent a letter, and we look forward to a positive.
We're waiting to hear.
Yep, response.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Anything else?
Nope. Just plenty.
Motion to adjourn? Second? All those in
Second.
favor say aye. Thank you. Okay, great.
Wait, hold on.
You missed one thing.